Um, Hello and thanks for joining. I am Josep. I'm the course director of the MSc Sustainable Heritage, a course that is this year in its 20th anniversary, actually. It has existed for a very long time, has a very long history. We have many alumni that are working across the sector. So I'm really excited to tell you a little bit more about this. And since we are a small number in this presentation, there's plenty of opportunities for a detailed discussion on your preferences and interests. So feel free to ask questions anytime, and you can write them in the chat and I'll answer afterwards. So I'll talk through the course very, very briefly, and I prefer to go back to slides and discuss them that spend a lot of time with it in the presentation. I will start with an overview of the structure of the course. The course has three main routes: data science, heritage science, and heritage management. Each of these routes has specific skills-based modules that belong to the route, and they also shared some content that it's shared among all the students. And this shared content appears at different times through the year. We all come together to discuss the main core topics that are the basis of sustainable heritage. So starting with the shared content, these are the big blocks that you would see that cut vertically across the diagram. So there's sustainable heritage management, science, and foresight. There's sustainable heritage in practice and policy advice and evidence for heritage, and then the dissertation. The first of these modules gives a general foundation to professional and research activities in sustainable heritage, going through our main research strands, and you also meet all the academics that work at the institute, and you get a solid theoretical foundation for the modules that come afterwards. Sustainable heritage in practice is the other occasion where we come together, and this is to attend field trips. So we have a strong component of field-based research. The field trips change every year. Sometimes they are in London, sometimes elsewhere in the UK, or sometimes even abroad. In the past, we have gone this year to Malta and to Northamptonshire, both brilliant field trips. And currently we are preparing other destinations for next year. And finally, in policy advice evidence for heritage, the students learn how to apply everything they have learned before in a policy context. This module is geared towards impact, being able to use evidence or interpret evidence to inform management and policy and liaise with stakeholders. So in between, there are lots of smaller modules where you learn skills that are specific to your route. I'm not going to go through those in a lot of detail now. I think it's better if we discuss them in the Q&A, because otherwise this presentation could become too long. But roughly I can say that if you are in the data science route, in the data specific modules, you learn advanced data skills such as statistics, visualization, machine learning, and so on. If you are in a heritage science route, you go to the lab, you do experiments with objects, collections, or samples from buildings. There's a theoretical module that introduces you to heritage science, and then practical modules such as analytical methods in heritage. And if you are in heritage management, you learn the challenges of historic buildings and collections or assemblies of them, and how you can use a diverse type of evidence to manage these sites, and how you can discuss and present this evidence to different types of stakeholders. You would learn management from different points of view, the management of collections and how they degrade as they age, the management of environments, even the management of the energy and carbon impact of your buildings. That's the general overview. Now let me show you some illustrative examples of how we work. We work very closely with partners, either visiting their buildings or their collections. Our students have unparalleled access to collections. You will be working not in the abstract, but with real buildings and collections, in field trips, group work, and also most importantly in your dissertation, depending on the topic that you choose. We are very proud of having woven through our course many opportunities to work in the field, and that takes the shape of sometimes day visits to historic sites, and also residential field trips, where we try to explore all the aspects of heritage sustainability in a holistic way. When we do a deep dive in a building, it is to explore its different sustainability challenges from many angles, and we take advantage of the fact that we all come from very diverse academic backgrounds. So your supervisors and academics, they would range from engineers to conservators to architects to structural engineers, social scientists, and so on. And our students tend to be equally diverse from backgrounds, with backgrounds from the sciences to the humanities. So the debates and the discussions with these kind of groups, they become really exciting. We're very big on communication and impact. Throughout the year, you will have many opportunities to present your results with increasing difficulty and increasing stakes. Let's say you will present your outcomes to external partners. There will be panels that will be interested in your advice and your opinion. And there will be occasions where you present to your colleagues for peer feedback, and also you will receive plenty of constructive and formative feedback from your supervisors. So you will become a very seasoned communicator in the area of sustainable heritage. We're also very keen on other forms of communication, such as public engagement, and you shouldn't be surprised to be invited from time to time to participate or help in public engagement activities. And we are very supportive of all the initiatives that our students have in this area. And as I've said, we run residential field trips. And in this year, we have done 2 residential field trips. One was to this beautiful property in Lamport Hall. The students stayed there for a week studying the collections in the building. And on another occasion, we have gone to Malta. The students, you don't do all these field trips, and some students go to one, some students go to the other, depending on preferences. And every year it changes. And for next year, we are already developing very exciting case studies that could be also abroad or elsewhere in the UK or in London. That's everything. Just to through the questions, I always like to say on these occasions a few tips on how to prepare for the course, or what to do at this stage, how you prepare your applications, and so on. If I have to summarize it in 3 bullet points, it would be simply this. First, do as much reading as you can on academic topics related to the course and your personal interests. The best assignments or dissertations are written by students that have enjoyed reading before starting to write. Also, be prepared to debate. This is not a course where you sit and listen. It's a course where your opinion and your ideas are very welcome. And many of our sessions are structured around sharing and debating ideas. And finally, if you're interested in the data science route, it would be great if you come with some knowledge of coding. We teach coding, but this is a master's level course, so we cannot spend a lot of time with the basics. So the course is more fulfilling if you come with some ideas on coding first. All right, that's everything. I am sure you will have some questions. Please ask away.
I've got one to kick things off.
Excellent.
What do you look for in an application, and is there anything in particular that could help an application stand out?
Yes. The general answer is that we look for passionate individuals that also can demonstrate the necessary skills to be successful in the course. So we are interested in any skills development that you have done that prepare you to succeed. If you are going, for example, for the data science route, and you may not be someone with a background in data science, but we will appreciate if you explain what kind of online courses you have done or what kind of exercises you're practicing on to be well prepared for the course. Similarly, we could say that for the heritage science route. In the heritage science route, you will learn how to do experiments with heritage objects in the lab. But we do not expect people to have done this in the past. In fact, we are aware that it's very rare that you would have an occasion to experiment with real heritage objects. But just knowing what type of heritage you're interested in, what type of museums you visit, what you think of them, what has motivated you to pursue a career in heritage, that goes a long way.
Great, thank you. And what sorts of careers do graduates tend to go on to pursue after this course?
A great diversity of careers. Many of our graduates are in the heritage sector. You can think that with a course with such a long history, you will see that many of our alumni are now also teaching some of the sessions. So you'll get a chance to meet them. And that's because they have stayed in leadership positions in the sector. We have people working in museums internationally, working in heritage management, for example, in the National Trust or English Heritage or their equivalents in other countries, working for government. But we also teach very practical skills. And we are very proud to say that our students find employment in places where the technical and transferable skills matter a lot, even if those places are not necessarily related to heritage. For example, one of our recent graduates on data science, in fact, not a graduate because they just completed the dissertation and so they will graduate next year, but they finished this year. They are already employed as a data scientist at Tesla. I just learned this last week. And like that, there are many other examples that range from IT to banking and so on. So we are very happy to say that we support both strong careers in heritage, but for people who want to come to learn the analytical aspects only on a heritage context, they are also useful in a technical career in the future. Let's see if we can encourage a question from our audience, because I would really like to know more from you guys. I am sure you already have a specific route in mind, but if not, I can comment in more detail on the differences between the routes. If you have any specific interest or you're wondering whether a route is right for you, I'm very happy to comment. If not, go ahead with the next question, Steph, and let's see if that inspires another question.
I was just going to ask how many students are on the course and how big the classes are.
We are expecting for the next year between 80 and 90 students. This would mean that the lectures of the shared modules are that large, but then the groups reduce in size on the route specific modules. So you could expect classes to be anything between 30 or 40. There are some that are even smaller when the routes are smaller, or when the routes require close supervision. For example, when it involves experimental work. So over a heritage science route, this one tends to be slightly smaller because we need to work in the lab, and there's more one-to-one supervision.
Great. Looks like we've got a question in the chat as well from Tina. May you please shed a bit of light on the PhD program?
Yes, our institute has a PhD program. It's very active. We have now close to 30 active PhD students, perhaps. The number is difficult to estimate because there are different stages of the PhD program. But I can say that certainly every year there are approximately students that start, 5 or 6 students starting. It is common for some of our students of the MSc to apply later for a PhD. And in fact, I always say to those interested that the MSc is a perfect way to be sure that you see yourself doing a PhD. You'll be able to meet the supervisors. You will have PhD-like experiences because you're going to do a research dissertation. You're going to be exposed to a wide variety of topics. You're going to do a small research proposal in one of the modules. So it's a good way to see if you're interested and to meet a good supervisor. Absolutely. I don't know if that's what you wanted to know, Tina, but happy to give more details.
You mentioned earlier about wider reading, and I was wondering if there's any books or podcasts or research that you would recommend to prospective students before applying or during the application process.
That's a good question. We typically send a reading list to all our offer holders. So when someone applies and gets an offer, soon after they receive some recommendations of general reading. But if someone is at the stage of preparing for the course, I would recommend that they go to the website of the Institute for Sustainable Heritage and have a look at our projects. And there's no better way of seeing the great diversity of things that we do and we are interested in. We are great proponents of research-led teaching, meaning that everything that we teach is in some way connected with our research project. Sometimes very strongly connected, sometimes informed by it, but you could see our passions and interests very clearly if you go to our research web pages. And there will be some things there are so many things that some you may find too technical, some you may find too social if you're technically minded, but it will help you see the range of things that will be covered in the course.
Great, thank you. I'm going to find that link and put it in the chat.
Oh, brilliant. Tina, can I ask you, if you don't mind sharing, whether you have in mind a PhD in any specific area? In the meantime, I'll answer to Nadia. The heritage course can be taken as an MSc or a PhD. It is also possible to graduate with a postgraduate certificate. Could you briefly outline the differences between these 3 options? Yes, this comes down to the number of credits that you have successfully completed. I don't remember exactly the number of credits, but I imagine this is publicly available in the prospectus. The PhD has less credits than the MSc, and the PG Cert even less so. So rather than an MSc, it's a different title because it's a shorter course. It's an option that it's available. Not many students take it. From time to time, it happens. Some students switch to one of those in the middle. So there's people who start as MSc, but then for some reason or other, either preference or they are too busy with their jobs or whatnot, they finish with one of the other degrees. But if you do it, you wouldn't be alone in lectures and so on, because you will take exactly the same modules than everyone else. Just a selection of them. If you are considering those options just as a way to be able to take the course while you work or making it smaller or more agile, you're welcome also to consider the part-time and flexible options. Within the flexible option, you can take the full MSc, but you can select any modules you want over a period of several years. So it's really useful for students that are working. Felipe, you have not asked any question. Is there anything you're curious about? Steph, happy to take another question from you.
Okay. Might have covered quite a lot of the things I had thought of.
All right.
What would a typical week on the course look like? I know you've mentioned that could be quite different depending on what route you go down, but
Yes, yes. Good point. So in a typical week, you would have 3 or 4 sessions, and those could take anything from 1 hour to 3 hours. So you would come to UCL at different times. Right now, for example, this week, we have 3 modules ongoing at the same time. That changes throughout the year. And then there are also those weeks where there's intense teaching, such as the site visits that happen on a week of block teaching. If you're doing this course or if you're interested in doing this course part-time, it's useful if you inquire early about the timetable so that you can clear it with your employers and so on. Because it is a little bit complex. Unfortunately, we are not always in a position to give the exact dates early on, and that happens towards the summer maybe, but I can give you an indication of where things will fall and how many hours.
great, thank you. We've got another question in the chat. I have interest in both heritage and data programs. Would it be possible to choose different courses crossed between the capsules courses?
All right. Just to clarify, Yin, do you mean heritage science and data science or heritage management and data science? In any case, as a general rule, it's not possible to pick and choose across routes. It would be too complicated, and because the modules overlap. So if you take modules from 2 different routes, you will be taking these modules very probably at the same time. That said, there is quite a bit of flexibility with optional modules. So if you have a look at the timetable, maybe let me share this again. I think it's worth responding well. So if we have a look, sorry. Okay, this is working well. If you have a look at the timetable, you will see it's visible, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. You will see that there's this bag of optional modules where you can select anything regardless of the route where you're in. But then moving across routes for the other modules, this is more difficult. We have some experience, however, letting the students sit in other modules. So you can always request this. It is subject to the approval of module leads, and it depends on demand. So we cannot assure that it's going to happen, but there's always some students that are in one route, but attend some lectures of the other modules that they are interested in. There's also some content that it's not formally a module, but it's open to all of them. Specifically, we do, as part of the module on statistics, we do training on programming. And this training on programming is open to all the other routes. And it's not marked or anything, but it's just a way to give this opportunity to all the students. Tina is asking what funding options are available for the programs. You have already put the link to scholarships. Thanks, Steph. Apart from these scholarships, which are some general to UCL, some specific to the Bartlett, there is also our own scholarship, which is funded by our partners, Ecclesiastical Insurance. And this scholarship is for full-time or part-time students, and it's usually advertised closer to the summer. So once it's advertised, it's circulated to all offer holders. So you will hear about it in due time. This year, it wasn't advertised until June, but most certainly it will be this year as well. Perhaps May. All right. Another question. At which campus do the classes for the heritage management take place? This is in the Bloomsbury campus in the center. Occasionally, some lectures. We have labs in the East campus, but very occasionally you would go them. It could be that we use them for some event or some demonstration, but that would be only one session in the whole year. Okay. If there are no more questions, I'm happy to leave it here. And feel free to email the student inquiries email that's listed on the website. And these queries, many of them go to me directly. If someone wants to email me directly to discuss academic topics like, the fit of your ideas, and if you have a strong interest in your PhD, as one of you was mentioning, I'm happy to discuss further as well.